let's go to the phones and visit with our guest, Texas State Senator Charles Perry, joining us here on the Chad Hasty Show. Senator Perry, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I apologize for being late, but constituent business sometimes takes a little longer than you expect.
It happens. I appreciate you giving us a call today.
Yeah.
Let's talk about number one, some of the bills that you have already filed. The upcoming legislative session looks like it's going to be a busy one. You'll have a lot of work to get done. But some of the first bills that you filed really had to deal with some fiscal matters that are very important issues, not only to you, but I know to a lot of voters out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm packaging my bills this round kind of in the subject matter. And a lot of those bills are concepts that's been out there. Some I've carried in the House, but with the Senate makeup now, I think we've got a good shot at several of them. And a lot of them will probably be picked up by senior senators. Sometimes your name's not on the final version, but you began that process. But zero-based budgeting, that's a no-brainer in my book. People argue why do we need it, and I tell them, sitting in appropriations, the first question I heard was, well, what did we spend last year? Not, is this a program that we need to continue, and is it working well?
Right.
So that's the zero-based budgeting. Population plus inflation, we're almost there on a lot of levels anyway, and it's something that I think just makes sense to kind of put it an objective, quantifiable limit out there. We've got 3 limits now on spending caps. They're convoluted and they're complicated, and nobody can tell you exactly how they work. This kind of just takes that guesswork out of it. So that's the cap. Ending diversions out of transportation. Everybody agrees transportation funding, especially in the urban areas, needs some help, and we divert a good chunk of that gasoline tax out of that fund. And I think there's a consensus building and fairly obvious consensus that part of the surplus dollars will go to cover those diversions and stop those. And that's what our voters have told us we want. There's an ag exemption in there that just makes sense. I mean, tractors, GPS data services that keep the plows in the furrows are subject to sales tax, but yet the $500,000 tractor that it's hooked to is not because of the ag exemption. So cleaning that up so that people don't get caught in a sales tax audit and spend a lot of time and energy over very little money. So those are kind of the start of the process on fiscal. Should be putting quite out in the next couple of weeks on some education reforms and some other things.
And you also, one of the bills that you filed, SB 138, would also have to deal with the franchise tax, which is something that lawmakers, I know in the last legislative session, were trying to take a whack at, and there are a lot of businesses that have been wanting lawmakers to keep going after the franchise tax. But there's a debate over how to get rid of it and when to get rid of it.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, it's like anything in government. If you give them more money, then it becomes kind of a crack cocaine kind of effect. You can't get off of it very easily. That's about a $4.6 billion tag to the state budget. Now, we did a $1 million permanent exemption that is a phase-in where everybody gets credit for $1 against it. I haven't seen the dollar effects of what the additional $1 million basically did to us, so that number may be a little smaller. But here's the reality of the world. We've got about 17% of the budget that we can actually control over, and that's where that $4.5 billion would be taken from. And realistically, there's not a whole lot of flexibility in trying to take that from some other area of the budget. So we've got to come up with a legitimate replacement. My deal says let's phase it out over 4 years. We've got surplus dollars this year that a piece of that could go towards that. And just to adjust the rate by a quarter each year for the next 4 years, and we would wean ourselves off. Theory being that would bring in more economic activity from businesses. That's really the only barrier, if you will, to argue that we're the most business-friendly state in the country, and free market works, So we could see that influx of business because we could argue that we don't have any business taxes.
I know, what was it, day before yesterday, you also announced a bill that would allow people to carry and also, of course, go to their CHL classes and qualify with a 22, which makes complete sense, I think, to just about everyone out there. Have you heard from anyone about that bill, whether they'd be for or against that?
The only thing I've heard is, well, why isn't it that way already? And nobody explained why it was not that way from day one. So it's just a nice little cleanup bill. And
I don't see much debate over that one.
No, not at all.
What are some of the other, I know you have a town hall meeting that's going to be coming up soon. What are some of the other bills that maybe some of the other areas that people can look forward to you filing in the future?
Education specifically, I'm excited about some opportunities to put some assessment provisions in that's currently available through technology, thus reducing the dependence on the standardized test at the end of class, but letting kids have a real-time assessment throughout the process and teachers being able to use it. Technology is already implemented in a larger part of the district, so we need to make sure the funding is available to do that part. On education, I would like to begin the process of talking about a pay-as-you-go on facilities. We currently have a 43-cent kind of INS tax, if you will, a $1.50 cap, where $1.17 to the operations and then the bonding ability. But it just makes sense to me that if school districts are projecting they need elementary schools in 5 years because of growth, that they get the opportunity to do a pay-as-you-go system rather than putting the burden on a bond on the taxpayers and spending all that interest. So got some ideas in that area. So those are two of the education areas. I'm probably going to look at some of this UIL stuff to where 4 teams out of a district goes. I just don't think that makes common sense. There's no 10 team out of Houston going to the playoffs. So, and that's an expense. I mean, you can look at the numbers. It costs the districts a lot of money to support those processes. So we're going to have that debate. Then on just some fiscal areas that are directly related to Medicaid and entitlement and welfare, putting together a package that hopefully will get DC's attention with, that just says we can't keep doing this, that $3.5 to $5 billion by 2017 additional cost in our Medicaid system. And that's just a trajectory that literally bankrupts this state as well as all the other states in the union. So it's time for states to band together and propose a common sense, rational healthcare delivery system, an indigent care delivery system, and safety net and welfare system that gets people out of those systems as they were originally intended to. And we're going to need some state compacts or coalitions to do it. I've got that legislation currently being drafted.
Senator Perry, as we let you go, remind folks when your town hall meeting is. I believe Dustin Burrows will be there as well, Representative Dustin Burrows.
Man, I wish I knew exactly which one. I had 4 the last 2 days.
So they're ongoing.
We've got them ongoing. If they're locally and if they're in the District 83 area, Dustin's done well to get there with me, and it's been fun to do that with all my fellow reps. Tomorrow, all the reps from District 28 that could make it, I think about half of them are going to be at the tech game with me, and we'll be setting rural agendas and kind of getting a pulse of what everybody's thinking out here in this area. So I'm excited about that. I don't know which specific town hall is. I look at my calendar.
Right.
And I've got multiples. I think I'm on the road next week down to Big Lake, Reagan County, San Angelo, Mason, and Junction. So.
All right. Well, Senator, we'll let you go. We appreciate you coming on with us. And I guess a warning to all OU fans out there, the legislature will be watching tomorrow. So take it easy. All right.
I appreciate you.
Have a good one out there. That's Texas State Senator Charles Perry.